Guardian is a mutual company. We were founded 152 years ago. We're really in the business of protecting our policyholders. We're owned by them. I'm sort of a piece in the 150-year plus continuity of Guardian, and it's really my job to lay the groundwork for the next 150 years. I've been in the insurance field ever since I graduated from college in one form or another. I've been a consultant in the industry, I've been an executive in the industry, and I've also been an entrepreneur in the industry. I basically like ideas. And so looking at the same industry from different angles captivated me, because you can always learn something different from being on a different side of a topic.
Often you talk about your upbringing, and in particular, upbringing in the Midwest, Nebraska, a very, very small town.
Yes.
Why do you think that type of experience shaped you in a meaningful way and allowed you to achieve the success that you've achieved?
Well, I grew up in basically a pioneer farm family, and although not everyone in my family was a farmer, and I think the values of hard work and self-reliance and also mutual dependence are very important, and especially in business today. When you grow up in a small town in the middle of the prairie, you really only have your neighbors to rely on, and you do learn the value of helping your fellow man and accepting help back. And that's something in this world it's easy to forget. Living on the prairie gives you a sense of continuity and the land that's been around forever, and that you're only a steward of the land for the next generation. Those values, I think, do fit well with what I'm doing now at Guardian in terms of how I see stewardship and continuity and being a mutual company.
What surprised you most about being CEO, being at the top of the company?
Well, I don't think of myself as being at the top of the company, although certainly I have the ultimate responsibility for everything that happens in the company. But I think of myself as being more in the center. And I was fortunate over the years as a consultant and in some of my other roles to work for a lot of great CEOs and to observe what life was like, both positive and negative. And one of the pieces of advice I always received was, you're always on, everyone's always watching you. Everything you do in the elevator, from the time you get out of the car in the morning till the time you get on the subway at night, is demonstrating to people your values and how you view yourself and how you view the company and the environment they work in. And I knew that coming in, but I'm still surprised when I'm running through an airport in a different city and I hear someone say, "Deanna," and I look and I see, one of the 5,000 people in our organization, and I think, fortunately I'm not wearing sweatpants, or fortunately I have the Wall Street Journal or Forbes under my arms instead of a novel. You just never know. And when you're a leader, you have the responsibility to lead, and it really is a 24/7 role.
What was the toughest setback, or potentially what others may view as a failure, that you feel like may have propelled you to the success that you've achieved today?
I think there are two things. One was business and one was personal. In terms of a business failure, I had a very short stint at one large company, and most people would say that was a failure, but I actually parted ways with the company in a very positive way, and I learned a lot. I just wasn't a good cultural fit, and that was really good for me, actually, to learn that I don't fit everywhere, and it's good to be humble. Personally, my sister-in-law died suddenly when she was 37, leaving my brother with 3 small children. So, everyone learns the lesson eventually that they're not going to live forever. Again, that's a very immature view, but at some point in your 30s or 40s, most people say, "Wow, there's mortality staring me in the face. What am I going to do with my life?" And I think that was a very difficult period for me, but it forced me to look internally and say, okay, what am I going to do? I could die tomorrow, just like my sister-in-law did. And it really focused me on what I'm contributing instead of what I'm receiving from the work I'm doing, and I'm very thankful for that learning as well.
What were some of the most defining moments in your career that shaped some of the leadership skills that have made you successful?
I think the first thing one has to do in order to be a good leader is to know one's strengths and weaknesses, and to emphasize the strengths but not be afraid of the weaknesses. And sometimes it takes a long time to become so-called friendly with your weaknesses and to say, okay, I have these, and the way I manage around them informs the way I construct my team, the kind of business I do, the people I work with. So I think that's a first step in leadership. And then I think the second step in leadership is really to understand your role and your mission and your purpose. I think it's really hard to be a great leader without a purpose outside oneself. If you have that purpose and that vision, it will fuel you through all kinds of setbacks, frightening issues, things that aren't pleasant. And I find myself focusing more and more on the mission. And as I do that, all the other things become noise.
Did you have ambitions to be a CEO, to rise to the ranks that you did?
I had ambitions to have an impact in life. When I was young, I really wasn't certain what that meant. But I did feel as though, even though, by some people's standards, growing up in a small town in the prairie wasn't a privileged background, I felt privileged. I felt very privileged by the family I had and the education I had. So I always had this sense that at some point in the future I needed to be able to give back. And so I think I was driven by that. Was I driven specifically to be a CEO? I have to say no. And I think I'm in this position because of the things that I'm willing to give and want to give, that it wasn't a specific career goal.
How do you define success?
I think success is the ability to have an impact in whatever way you define as being important. And one of my friends asked me once, do you feel successful, or what will it take for you to feel successful? And I say, at the end of the day, if I'm working on my mission and I've given it my all, I'm successful. I don't really need anything else to validate that.